this even before then, it's just, it's been like this for the
I
last
went to
couple
that,
years.
I guess your church,
I
I don't know where they sponsored it,
know
they certainly held it
it's more
at that
expensive to build stuff
facility,
now
but
than that.
AARP, I guess,
Tell you that you should be putting 3% in
Guilford
radio
County,
fund.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
I don't know really what the
So what's your
organization
setup?
is, but I
Let's
went
just
to
say
lunch,
$3
Murray
million.
told me
That's
about it, and he and I went to
90 million, I got it written.
the church today,
Or, and you put that
and
right
it was,
into a life
Eileen was
cycle, 30
there, and
years. That's right. You got cash,
Ready to spend and fix it.
pay.
That's right.
And, or you put it back into the asset,
and,
and stretch the life cycle out. to
Bob
100,
Ray,
That's right.
You know,
Bob's
where
good
you get
people,
on.
That's right.
good people, good people.
His wife Judy was my 5th grade teacher.
Really? She's a sweetheart.
She
Well,
is.
They're all in that choir with Murray. And,
Oh, I didn't realize that.
yeah,
Okay.
and, it's the community choir. And so there was several of those that I knew because I had gone to the performances with them, but they had a little program, and then, got fed us lunch. Golden Corral.
Already.
Sorry, hold up, all started?
First cleanup.
Yeah, we're finished. All right, well, good, I can go back in the room there. No, we ain't started yet.
Yeah, I was gonna go.
That's 6.
Thursday, March the 12th, 2026. Call Stokesdale.
Oh, let me change this thing.
Gary Machinas is gonna join, more so just to listen, he wants to hear. But that's he's our ORC.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean,
You meant,
yep,
yep,
yep, he likes that.
yep, he came out there. Both,
That's right.
no, I wish. Hopefully he'll show up via Teams.
Take AI. He does good.
Okay, I've got 6 o'clock on the nose, and this is the 12th of March. This is a special call meeting of the Stokesdale Town Council. I hereby call the meeting to order. Please rise as you can and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
If we could please bow our heads for the invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for the opportunity to gather together in service to our community. As this council meets tonight to consider matters that affect the future of Stokesdale, we ask your guidance, wisdom, and discernment. Lord, grant the members of this council the insight to weigh the needs of today with the responsibilities we hold for tomorrow. May our conversations be respectful, our judgments thoughtful, and our actions guided by what will best serve the people of this town. Remind us, dear Lord, that our role here is one of stewardship to care well for the resources, safety, and well-being of the community entrusted to us. Bless this meeting, dear Lord. Bless the work before us, and bless the people of Stokesdale. For us, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mayor.
Okey dokey. Do I have a motion to review and adopt the agenda?
You have it?
Second.
Any discussion? We'll take a vote. Mr. Foy, Mr. Landrith,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
I am,
and I am also aye. We have a 3-minute limit per speaker for any comments from the floor. Ms. Landreth, do you have anything? That, there being none, we'll move along to new business.
Mr. Wagner, this meeting was properly noticed. I don't see anybody but one citizen in the seats here, so there's no way word didn't go out, right?
Yeah, correct. Word went out.
Everybody's water's running and tasting fine.
And we have no word from Mr. Rigsby. He's not right around the corner or anything, right?
Don't believe he's.
Correct. He's not around the corner.
Okay, sorry for the interruption.
Okay, new business items. Water System Workshop with Scotty Wilkins of Utility Service Co. Incorporated to discuss the condition, maintenance, and future planning considerations for the town of Stokesdale's elevated water storage tank. Mr. Wilkins.
Yeah, it's up to you. If it's a little bit
I'll just
easier.
stand and talk, because I don't think I need to be on the mic.
Yeah, well, and if you want to grab the mic, let's get recorded, because like Gary will be listening from home. So feel free, and that mic moves, so you can take it with you, whatever
Okay.
you'd like to do. Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate, on short notice, putting this together. So we came out here, I think January 28th, 27th, because I remember I just flew back in from being out of town and jet lagged and came out here, and it was a little cold, but you guys got the tank drained, and everything went pretty seamless. I think we lost a little pressure one time, but once again, one of those life lessons is you start to take your tank offline, you start to do different operations in your system, you start to learn and understand it a lot better. And so one thing we're a big proponent of is active and proactive maintenance, because we get to learn our system. So we have a situation, we know how to operate, take tanks offline, turn valves and things of that nature. And so today I just wanted to share this report. I'm going to email this to Robbie so you all can actually have it. It'll be in a PDF file. So I'm just going to kind of go over the hot spots, and then we're going to go into what we put together as an asset management. You know, first and foremost, the tank structurally is in excellent condition. Thing is sturdy, looks great. Coating systems are typically on the exteriors are every 10 years is when we overcoat. Interiors are typically 14 to 16. And a lot of that could be conditioned on where we live, weather, freeze, thaw cycles, heat, drying. When your tank exercise goes down, the sidewall starts to dry because of the heat. Thermal loading, we talked about mixing a little bit in the last time I was here. We're going to talk about that a little bit today also. And so basically we had our washout crew. I was here, washed out the tank. There wasn't a ton of sediment. Overall it looked pretty good. It was, I think, 2019 the last time it was washed out. So I was pleasantly surprised, because just 2 weeks ago I was in Wrightsville Beach in a ground storage tank, and I could just tell by the eyes of my crew member, they were about that big, and I'm looking at him as he's in the tank. He's like, it's a ground storage tank. I walk in, there's 3 feet of sand. And this is down at Wrightsville Beach off the coast, so they have a lot of sand in their distribution. A one-day job went 5 days. And so sometimes it just happens. Sometimes you could have a main bust here down your transmission main that could suck in a bunch of junk into your tank. So let's just go ahead and roll to the next one.
Okay.
I'll tell you where. Keep going. That's just a name placard right there that just tells when the tank was erected. It's 2002. This tank today, in today's marketplace, I just talked to one of our tank fabricators who builds tanks. He said right now that tank is between $3 and $4 million. So if you were to go ahead and bid that tank out today, you'd be looking at a cost around $3 to $4 million. And that's just like the tank itself. That's not the electrical and all the other components that go with that. And so it's 138 feet to the high water line, which is, I think standard. The average tank in North Carolina is about 120. If you go down towards the coast, they're probably closer to about 185 because they're more sea level, so they need more elevation for pressure. Go ahead and scroll. Things that we look for from a security standpoint. You have a fence, gates are locked, you have hatches, you have vents, everything is secure. If you guys remember 9/11, 2001, there was something called a vulnerability assessment study. At one point in time, water treatment plants, elevated tanks, they're considered critical assets, but also potential terrorist attacks because it's our water source. It's not so much as elevated tanks. The things they ask you to have is have a ladder gate on your tank, to have a fence, everything secured. The only thing I can say that you may want to add to this is you might want to put a photocell, like a pole with a light. So I know we have one at our house where someone walks up, it'll pop on in the dark. Bad people don't like to do bad things in the light, right? So that's just something to think about. Once again, it's not mandatory. We all agree it's a pretty good area. I live in Summerfield. This whole area is, but once again, it's different times, right? So that's just something to consider. It's not a recommendation, it's your choice. If you wanted to have someone come out here, Duke Energy, or someone put a pole in the ground, put a light on there, that's something you could do. Keep going. So this right here, I want to point this out. This is a safety climb. It's no longer used in our industry because it got recalled. So that is called a T-climb or a tube climb, where you tie off onto. The problem we've had is that it gets jammed up and you can't move. So you get stuck. Yes, sir.
Have you provided a package to us with these pictures in it?
I'm going to email you everything.
I'm old, I can't see that far.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was, like I said, I forgot you guys had a smaller
Okay,
screen.
well,
But
if it gets any more detailed with this, I'm gonna come sit there in front of it.
no,
Go
I would
ahead.
love you to sit right here so we
Absolutely.
can see it, because
Yeah.
that's why I'm standing here, because I can't see from there either.
It's a good idea. I might join you, actually.
No, if you guys want to get close so you can see it, that'd be great.
Well, it's not like the citizens will be in their way.
Yeah, please do. And I'm going to send a PDF file to Robbie, so you guys will actually have it to look at your leisure too. But yeah, just please. But this is what is required by OSHA, and it's a safety tube climb. It's just no longer operational or useful. So what we would recommend is we put on a 3-inch cable climb, which you have a safety D-ring here where it slides up and down. It doesn't get locked up. So that's one of the things that we noted. Okay, next. That's just a overview of the tank site. So we always like to look down here. You see, we're looking down over the catwalk. We want to see what the perimeter looks like, make sure we have enough room to work and operate safely. Next. All right, go back to the roof. So you see the tank is kind of chalking. One thing we talked about, that you guys have a two-tone color, which it looks good, but what happens over time, the pigment gets baked out, so that blue starts to fade, get chalky. It's more susceptible to corrosion and breakdown just because it gets a lot hotter in the summertime because of thermal loading. Darker clothes we wear, darker. If your car upholstery is dark, it's usually we get in that car, it's heated up, right? Same concept. And your legs are white, so obviously they look a little cleaner, right? Go ahead. So right here.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
I don't want to interrupt the flow of the conversation.
please.
But you mentioned the points with the darker color paint. When folks reach out to you and express interest in painting their water tank, and say they want to do a darker color, how do you advise them?
I always advise them, my first question I ask is water quality important?
Okay.
I said, so absolutely. I said, okay, so let's put this in perspective. The darker their tank, the hotter the thermal loading heats up the steel. That steel doesn't really cool down at nighttime as what you would think it would. It does a little bit, but what happens is it heats up the water, especially in the upper columns. And so you have fouled water at the top of the tank, right? But you never notice it because your tank, when it fills up, it empties at the bottom. So good water in, good water out. But in this column, probably from about here up, this right here, here's your catwalk, that's 42 inches height. So when you get up into here, that water's never leaving the tank. And the darker that color, the hotter it's going to get. So we always like to look at the UV rating, and we look at, like your white, if this tank was all white, one, you wouldn't have all this chalking. It looked more symmetrical or uniform, right? Your tank, if you look at the legs, they look pretty good. But when you start getting to that blue part, you can see that coming into town, right?
It used to be white. And a guy wanted it to. Not been the best decision to put blue on there at the time.
Yeah. Look, a lot of people do that. I mean, it's good looking. Oxford has a really pretty green and a white. And I mean, it looks great. It's brand new. As we instructed and told them that, hey, listen, guys, that's great, but it's going to be a point in time where this is going to look so pretty. Legs are going to still look good. And that's just, the physics and the science of it. And so we're going to talk about this because we got a recommendation. You got logos on two different sides. And what we have put together is actually painting the tank. Right now we could do a one-coat system. I think we have it scheduled out in year 5, tentatively speaking. However, what we put in there is to paint it with 2 full coats and go back to white, the whole tank being white. And we'll show you that, what that looks like. Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry, one more back. You have a lot, it looks like birds. Birds are turkey buzzards. So they're kind of roosting, and that's their residual from doing their business. What happens is it's very acidity. It'll start to eat away at your coating system over time. And so that's something we talked about doing a complete pressure washing of the whole tank, top to bottom, clean all that up. The tank will look much better. It'll still chalk faster, but it'll look better. We don't think right now to have to paint the tank unless you guys said, hey, the water quality is a really big concern of ours. We need to accelerate that. We push up, but right now I would not say it's time to paint the tank. I think we need to clean it in the next year or 2 years and pressure wash it, get all that foreign matter, that residual off, make it look a little cleaner, and then it'll weather over the next couple of years. Then we'll go ahead and change the whole color to white. And I'll show you that. I got a graph that breaks that out. Yes, sir.
Do I see blue paint worn off and white primer, or is that white I see residue from the bird droppings?
That's bird droppings. Yes, sir. Looks like it could be the white underneath, right? No, that's a great question because at first glance, that's what I thought. And then we get up on it and you kind of put your finger across and you're like, that's not paint. So.
I hadn't been up there, actually.
All right, next. All right, so go to this right here. You can see the difference, right? That white, it just holds better. Now this right here is a manway. And so typically it needs to be 24 inches. One is for confined space entry and the egress. Plus, if we have a man that's inside that tank and they go down, it's a whole lot easier to pull them out of a manway at the bottom than try to hoist them up through the top back out the hatch. And so this is something we'd recommend. It's an AWW. It's called a divot manway. It's 24 inches all the way in. It's bolted, but it's also on a lever so you can open and close it. Once again, so when the tank is painted on the inside, it cures faster because you got better airflow coming and going from the hatch and at the bottom. So that would be a recommendation that's in the spreadsheet we'll show you. Next. So you can see right here a little bit. This is mildew, a little bit of residual over time. Once again, if I cut into the coating's tight. It's more of an aesthetic right now. But we know that it's going on 7 years. It's getting weathered. It's starting to get older. So what we try to do is try to stay close to our cycles and basically just keep it maintained and bring it back up to 95% replacement value instead of letting it, we've been around a long time and I've seen where tanks will go 20 years and I always get asked the question, well, when do we have to paint? I said, well, based on cycles, about every 10 to every 16 inside outside. I said, but reality, you don't have to do anything. It's just that every time, we call it catch-up mode. Mm-hmm. Every year you let go by, you're going to have to account for that at some point in time. So if it's 7 years, we have to look at putting monies. We got to put monies back into it to catch it up to paint it in year 5. And then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to catch it up to paint it in year 10. And so I'm always asked the question is what is the most cost-effective asset to bring on a professional service when it's brand new? We probably have 5 or 6 of them coming on board this year from other clients because it's flat. The cost stays flat all the way throughout because you never have this spike where we haven't done anything for years. So next. Once again, you just see some of this mildew. If you walked up on it, it'd look even more obvious. It's not detrimental. It's not something that's going to, Chicken Little Sky's falling. But we're just seeing the natural degradation over time of what a coating system does. Next. So if you look at that belly here, and your foundations, they all look great. You're only as strong as your foundation. We look at our houses, and other assets. So your foundation in great shape. Once again, you're just seeing more mildew and fungus. Once again, over time, it could be a problem. But that's why I think we have it teed up in year 2 to pressure wash the whole tank, bring back that coating to its original color, and then look at repainting the whole thing in a couple years afterwards. Next. So this is going on the inside. If you want to go up there a little bit more. You got a couple areas up here in the roof rafters where it's just breaking down, but you know they're in the seams of the tank. That's just something you can't get enough paint in there because it's almost like a lap seam, right? So that happens over time. So once again, it's nothing that we think is detrimental to the tank. Here's your ladder right here going in. We would pull that safety climb off of that. Once again, it's no longer useful. One thing, and this is our company, we don't use safety climbs on the inside of tanks. We use double lanterns, that way we climb, because there's chlorine in these tanks. Over time, they gas off. Those safety climbs become deteriorated. We feel that you can't look inside that cable and determine whether it's good or not. And so we would just pull the whole thing off and not put a safety climb on the inside because of the environment and the conditions. We would just use our safety climbs, which we use lanterns. And I'll show you the dome ladder in a minute too. But if you look right here, this doesn't look too bad. I mean, once again, I think we were pleasantly surprised. There wasn't a lot of sediment that we may have thought would be in this tank. Go ahead, Robbie. So you can see up here these little kind of pock marks. They're kind of in the seams, a little flash rust. But once again, it's nothing that is detrimental to the structural integrity of the tank. So here's basically a great view of the sediment. There's minerals, there's manganese and iron, which is a natural particulate in our water source. But what we did while we were in there, you had some areas that were breaking down around the tank that we just took the liberty at no cost, just because it's the right thing to do, just kind of touch up because it was a little bit deeper than what we like to see. So we put a coating system on there to protect it. And so every year, this is a great analogy. So right now there's sediment there. This is kind of baked into the coating system. So we can only operate at about 3,500 PSI. And the reason, because we don't want to tear up your coating system, right? But we've done that before. We've had some life lessons on pressure washing. Because you'll see when we get to the final cleaning pictures, but I have people say, well, you never cleaned the tank. And I'm like, well, we can't jack it up to 5,000 PSI because we're going to damage the interior coating. Now, we do have different kind of biofilm cleaners and things of that nature that will actually remove that from the tank. But this is really not terrible. So I didn't recommend in our proposal to do biofilm chem clean unless you guys were telling me you had water quality issues. Yes, sir.
The touch-up materials you're using, is that the same material as the original coating, or is that something different?
No, it's a quad epoxy, which is an epoxy. The difference is it's a fast cure, so it cures in 24 hours.
Is this in the report, just in case in the future we need to know what was put on it at that particular date?
I'm not sure if we put the quad epoxy in there, but I could send a note to Robbie on that.
Please do, just
Yeah.
so we know what was utilized.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Okay, next. That's your float system. It looks like it's operational, but can you see the safety climb here? That's all corroded. It's all chewed up. So that's the reason we don't even put them in the tanks. We take them out, because if you have someone that's not a professional climber and they go in there and they think they could tie off on that, it could be a safety issue. And so in our mind, we just remove the liability. So, all right, you got a little closer up on the manganese and iron in there. And this is after it's been cleaned. And this is something, it's called an OSHA safety rail. So for example, if you had some kids get up there in the dark at night and it was full of water and they fell, this is a safety rail to prevent them from dropping all the way down into that 100-foot pipe that goes down up the center of the tank. Right, so this is great that you guys have. Some tanks don't even put them in there, so you guys are good on that. Next. That's just going down, this right here goes all the way down to the belly, down to the bottom. But you can still see that coating, it has a lot of life. See that little sheen there up in this area? So for us, we put this thing all the way out in year 10 to be blasted to bare metal, take it back and start all over again. We feel that's, probably a pretty, so what are we now, 2026? Around 2035, so you figure you got 2019. It's about 14 to 16 years, and that's right around our cycles. But every year, we'd wash this tank out every other year if we had to make touch-ups or corrections. Sometimes it could be accelerated up, sometimes it could be pushed back, but that's why the annual inspections are for, so we can determine when is the right time. If we were to take that tank and blast it to bare metal, I don't know, in 2019, my guess is that tank took at least 3 months to paint and blast the inside and outside. Inside alone is usually 4 to 6 weeks to do that. And so, we had it off for a day and a half, 2 days?
Yeah.
Think about that times a little longer window, right? Okay, next. You see a little bit of corrosion there. And this one thing, goes down to the ground, and I guess it comes out of some basin or some area where the water, that's your overflow pipe. For us, we would probably want to cut it off and put a flapper on there so it discharges right there. But there might be some other reasons, maybe because if you did overflow, you'd flood that area. So that's just a matter of preferences. Yes, sir.
There's already a flapper there. It goes under the ground, comes out under the fence over there. There's
Right.
some riprap.
Yeah.
It comes up out of the ground and there's a flapper on the end, unless I've just gone crazy here.
Right. No, sir. I'm saying that sometimes we cut it off there at the foundation on a 45 and they discharge there. But there are people, exactly what you've done is fine too. It's more of what works for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're not suggesting.
No, sir. No, sir. I'm just saying I've seen them all different ways. Yeah. So, next.
Some more of the foundation.
Yeah, foundation looks great. Okay, so you got a little pitcock valve there. That's something that you might want to either put some heat tape on or build maybe a box around there with some insulation, because as we just found out this past winter, we had days where we had extended below freezing. Not normal, but it does happen.
We've had conversations about if that valve went bad, just how we would go about replacing that. We just have to drain the tank, wouldn't we?
Yes, sir, because we've had it happen, different customers where it'll just not functional anymore, operational. You have to drain the tank. We'll cut it out, we'll put a coupling on there, and then we'll put a freeze-proof valve out there.
That thing's probably getting near the end of its service life.
Yes, sir, we would probably look to replace that on year 2 when we do another washout and get in there, cut it out, and put another one on there. And, that's great, though, because, back in the day, people had to climb their tank to take a sample.
Mm-hmm.
Here, you can walk up, run it, let it run for a little bit, get a little bleach on there, clean it up, and then pull a sample. Next. So that's your float indicator. Everything is operational as far as we can tell. That's a 24-inch hatch, which is fine. See this right here? This is another. So think about this. If you're on the top of the tank and you're trying to climb and you're tied off to this safety on one, it's no longer functional. But even if it was the same climb that we're going to put on the leg ladder, which is a cable, which does move up and down, you only have about 1.5 feet from where you tie off. So you would literally be pinned to the dome ladder. You can't move. So this is something also that we pull off the tank, right? And we use double lanterns to climb because we think it's safer. Because if you're trying to climb here and then you get stuck and you can't move because it's locked up, you got to detach and now you're not tied off anywhere. So.
I think when we had the tank painted, there was a fitting missing up there or a bolt missing. I remember there was an anchor on the tank that went up to that ladder at the top. And if I'm not mistaken, somebody originally took a welding rod, a large welding rod, and bent it into a Z shape, and that was what was holding it. We paid to get that fixed, so it has been repaired and good to go there, right? Your inspection would have discovered this.
Yeah, the ladder's secure. There's not an issue there. We're just talking about the safety climb itself.
Yeah, and I'm right there somewhere was where that repair was done. My memory's a little fuzzy, but I do remember the picture of side of that ladder, somewhere along there. Did you not?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the safety comment, it was secure, but it's just not functional.
Okay, there was something up there.
Yeah,
right?
we didn't see anything that looked kind of wonky or out of place.
So hopefully you've checked behind the guy that did the inspection and did the repair, and we're all good now.
Why, we weren't aware of the repair, but we haven't seen anything that indicates anything was not done.
I remember.
Okay. No, that's fine, but we didn't see anything that,
I'll try to look at the pictures.
yeah, so, it says remove system seal penetrations. WSC will need to get with client to verify if the system is used or if not. Okay, and so, here he's talking about the float system. I'm assuming you guys do use that float system to see the water. What he was referring to there is, if you're not, a lot of times we'll cut them off, we'll seal these holes. A lot of people are using telemetry, SCADA, pressure gauges, things of that nature.
And the last time it was painted, me as just one council member, that, we have the black ball that goes up and down. I
Right.
want, white paint on that ball or orange or neon green.
Well, the contrast to blue.
Correct.
Yeah,
In certain circumstances, depending on what's going on, sometimes we've been out there in poor light conditions in the
Can't-
evening, what have you, trying to see that float ball.
right,
And it's kind of up there a ways you
Yeah.
can't see it. So there's no reason why we can't pick a color and
Yeah.
make that float ball.
100%. Well, you want it to contrast so you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not
that black kind of blends in with the blue.
I'm not decorating here, but.
Right. No, I get you. Next. That's just showing you flap where it discharges as you were stating. Okay. That's just showing you the safety climbs that we're talking about removing and replacing with a OSHA-approved safety climb. Just another picture of the roof hatch. Hatch is secure, that's what we talked about, from a deterrent for risk management. You have a good vent system, you have a hatch that's locked up, you have a ladder guard, all these things are important to have. Just showing you a shot there. Once again, we would remove that. That's just showing you more pictures of that catwalk. You also has, here's the kind of dip manway I was referring to. You have it on your side wall, but you don't have it on the riser pipe going up the tank. So I think that's 21 inches. It would actually be a 24-inch we'd put on the manway down at the bottom of the tank, but it'd be that kind of style. So if you look closer here, you can see there's some areas that need to be touched up on the catwalk. We had that all incorporated for year 2. To pressure wash the complete tank, do some touch up, clean it up a little bit. Keep going. Yeah, God bless you. Go back, Robbie, just a sec. So, they're talking about installing right here a 30 by 30 inch square hatch. I don't think it's unnecessary. Unless you were putting some kind of equipment inside the tank that needed to have a hatch oversized, we think what you have is sufficient. So, our NACE inspectors, they look at forward thinking, as far as if you have to have everything. So if you guys were to build a tank, we'd want to be involved because we want to help your engineers, not just for today, but let's think about 30 years. Oversized hatches, vents, overflows, things of that nature. It just makes it easier to maintain the tank. But you're good with this. This right here is a good hatch. Nothing needs to be done there. Once again, that's one of the things we would definitely want to cut out and put a repad on the inside of that and make it a 24-inch divot arm that's on the side wall of the tank. It's just a little bigger than the one on the side wall. See, there's a great picture. Go back. That's a great picture of what it would look like. And so really you'd have kind of 3 different ingress egress. You'd have one at the bottom at the riser pipe, one on the side wall, and one at the top where the hatch is, and also the vent, but typically we're not going to come out the vent, but it also just allows for better ventilation and air, especially when you're putting epoxies inside there and the VOCs and the fumes. It makes for a safer environment. All right, next. Vent system right here. So it's 24 inches. Once again, you have this here, that when it's sitting flat, you got we call it a flat screen, and then you have your vertical. So once again, you got multiple screens. The only problem that we would see potentially here, and this is anywhere, we did have, like I said, a really cold winter, that it could freeze up. And if you guys were to bust a main and water was trying to come out of that tank and they couldn't breathe, this could be potentially a problem. Does that make sense? So if that's this is your tank and that's your vent, but because it gets clogged or it gets frozen and there's no air that can come in or go out, and if someone hits a line and all that water comes rushing out from your distribution and that tank starts to drain, what could happen is it can't pull because there's no air, right? So it could implode. Now, it's a remote, one in a who knows how many chances. It's just something that, is a potential.
Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
Wow.
We've seen it because Knuckleheads painted that place.
Have you seen it in a town that uses, 8 and 6 inch and 4 inch mains and 2 inch mains?
No.
In other words, does it take a 24 inch main busted to?
It would take a lot of velocity to pull that water and implode it.
I mean, we don't have any big stuff. We
Yeah.
can run out.
Yeah, like I said, it's just something I'd be remiss not to mention it, but I think that's sufficient. We had it as a potential to put a pallet vent on there. I talked to engineers. I was like, guys, I think it's a little overkill. I think we can live with this. But the thing is, every year, to inspect it and to look at it, put your hands on, lift that up, make sure it's not clogged, make sure insects and things aren't getting onto that. Or you see the bird residue. Another concern is you got all this stuff right here. We want to make sure that this is secure and nothing can blow back into, because it's a windy day, right? So you got stuff laying on top of the tank, it can blow back into the tank, get into your water source. And so once again, these things are looked at on annual inspections to make sure that they're meeting standards, so there's no issues.
Is there filter media on that filter there that's replaceable, like a core filter, air filter?
So this is just a screen that's bolted there, which could be replaced. And for us, we might even put 1/4 inch mesh on there. That way it breathes a little better.
I can't tell how fine it is.
It's fine. It's like,
Fine enough to keep wasp out, for example.
yes, sir. It's like screen porch, real fine screen porch back in the old day. So that's something that, it's one of those things we would monitor, because it can breathe here, right? So let's say those look like maybe an insect or two, but it's not going to go through that mesh. Like I said, it's kind of like, we know the wasps and things can't get in there. However, if it was to freeze up, or if a knucklehead painter was to, when we're painting the tank, paint it all over there. But once again, that's why we have inspectors, quality control, to make sure those things don't happen. Next. I think that's it.
That's it.
And so let's go to the next one. And keep in mind what we're putting together here. This is just a first glance. There's more when we skin a cap. I'm going to walk through. So let's just talk about money for a second, because that's always an issue, and I understand it. So today's market, let's just say the tank's $3 million. The federal government said years ago, after World War II, my dad was a World War II vet, he was in the Pacific in the mix. And so what they stated was that all this building around the country, that you could take 3% of your replacement value of any asset, this building. You guys can get copies of all this. This building, a tank, a water treatment plant, whatever it may be. You put those monies, that 3%, into a rainy day fund. So we let the life cycle of an asset go, let's say 40 years, you got that money sitting there, and then you just rebuild that asset, right? The problem with that theory, or that concept, is that every 2 years there's elections across the country, and every municipal, county, authority. And so it seems that the monies are never readily available. The other option is to take about 1.5% of the replacement value, put back into the asset, stretch the life cycle out to 100 years. Okay, so those are two different concepts. Or the third one is operate to fail, do nothing. And we've seen it all. We've seen a little bit of everything. So typically what we had put together was, next year we just washed it out. So in this calendar year, 26, 27 budget, We'd come out there, we'd do an engineer inspection, we'd look at anything that needs to be addressed while we're there. And then year 2027, 28 budget, year 2, we'd completely pressure wash the whole tank. That catwalk's gonna have some areas that need to be touched up, clean it up. We would do all the repairs. We'd take all the safety climbs, we'd put on new manway, drill holes in the catwalk. The catwalk, over time, because of the steel, the freeze thaw, it gets hot, it gets warped. And so instead of the water running off, sometimes it gets ponding. And when the exterior coating is not designed to be underwater like your interior, it's an immersion coating, which is a lot better suited for water. The outside tank is not. That's why it's shaped, it rolls off. But if it's ponding on the catwalk, it'll cause corrosion over time. So we'll drill extra holes in the catwalk so it'll drain off properly. What other repairs we have in there? The manway, safety climbs, remove old safety climbs. Those are the repairs to be noted. And then year 5, we would do a complete renovation with 2 full coats. We would pressure wash the tank all over again, and we would put 2 full coats, the same color of the white that you have on the bottom part of it. The whole tank would be uniform, it'd be white. Now the logos, we have in there 2 block logos to go back with, but you guys would determine the color of what you want those logos to be. At that point in time, the black color of that float, that little ball that goes up and down, it wouldn't matter because you have a white background. So anything other than white, right? And we fast forward to year 10. We do a complete renovation on the interior. That means it'd be blasted to bare metal, stripped all the way down, and go back with a brand new epoxy. This epoxy was 2019, so it's really not NSF approved. They've changed the epoxies. NSF means National Sanitary Foundation. And basically what we've gotten away from, the coating system there now, which is a great coating system, because we have in a lot of our tanks, it has more of VOCs, which are volatile organic compounds, which are thinner, right? The reason it was in there, so when it was curing, all the VOCs would gas off. The problem that EPA had is that just depending on where you were in the country, some people would jump the gun and they prematurely put their tank back online. Well, what would happen? All of a sudden, Miss Jones gives a call. She's blowing up Robbie saying, my water tastes like chemicals, right? Because the VOCs were still in that coating system and it got into the distribution. And so what we've went to is I think it's 80% solid epoxies. So I think it was in 2023 going forward, everything we use has at least 80% to 100% solid epoxies, which one, it cures faster. You don't have to worry about the VOCs being an issue. And that's just something that, and I look, between now and 2035, EPA may come out with saying, you know what, nothing but 100% epoxy. I know if you go north, New Jersey, New York, it's only 100% solid epoxies. And so now it costs more, but the life cycle is a lot longer. It's more like an 18 to 22 year life cycle. So you don't have to take your tank off as much. So that would be done in 2035. So basically, we talk, if you see here, it's every 10 years, every 14 to 16 on the interior based on the coating system that you currently have. If you scroll up a little bit, Riley. And so it says the schedule of work is, based on, the projection rate of deterioration. And so it could be forward or it could be backwards. It just depends. Every year our inspections, for whatever reason, if we had a couple really bad summers and winters and we had to move it up, we move it up. And it's like the cost doesn't change. We just move it up. But we're not going to do it any later than these dates that are indicated right here. And this just talks about, this is an asset management. It means emergency services. If someone writes graffiti on your tank, if someone shoots a bullet hole in there, if there's a failure, a weld seam breaks, anything, it's 100% at this cost. There's no change orders in this service. Everything is included. Now, if a hurricane or a tornado, that's act of God. None of us can control that. Typically, we'd be out here within 24 hours addressing the issues. We would send you guys an invoice. You send it to FEMA. FEMA would reimburse you. That's typically how that works in that case. And we had that happen a bunch down east when we had those hurricanes. And, it was a mess. But, that's usually the process with that. All engineering, permits, any kind of design, everywhere from the foundation up. It's not a multi-year service. It's a year-to-year. So every year we send you a budget letter. You as a board would determine, do we want to continue on, or do we want to take a timeout? I mean, once again, this board's makeup could change next year's elections, right? So it just, yeah, and so that's why we leave it kind of evergreen. That way it's not, you're not bound to, 20 years, 10 years. It's really 1 year at a time. But also, keep in mind though, let's say we do all this work right here. Well, that's a whole lot more than $33,000.
Right.
You just have to pay us for the work rendered. And so, once again, this is one look at how we can do this. There's also another way where you guys just pay us for visual inspection. That's it, a couple $1,000, kind of like the washout we did recently. And then year 2, you pay us for the cost of the pressure wash, the exterior, and all the repairs. There's no, this is a perpetual warranty. That means anything that happens, you're 100% covered. The other way, we'll just take 1 year at a time. Here's what needs to be done. Here's the cost. Let's shake hands. We'll come do the work. You got a 1 year warranty on anything that was done. So just two different kind of aspects. The money's all about the same when you really run it out. The difference is that you don't get all the other features of the service, the emergency service, and everything else that comes with it as when you just kind of do 1 year at a time.
I like that from a budgetary standpoint. When you're forecasting the budget process, a couple things that we've talked about, and I'm just speaking actually for myself. I don't know if the governing board would want to do this, but the potential of adding cell phone towers up there to generate revenue for the town, is that something you guys help other municipalities with?
So I know Mr. Applewood over there at the business that they run, they have antennas on that thing. So I just did with Pamlico County, I'd get the physical address, and I work a lot with Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. They're the 3 telco companies because US Cellular just got bought by T-Mobile, and I think AT&T bought someone else recently, Sprint. And so I would give them the physical address, and I know, and they look at it and they draw kind of RF, location, location, location. But if you guys remember years ago, you used to have these like 900-foot, 1,200-foot towers where the RF would be shot for miles. Now, because of these phones that we all have, with all that information that we're jamming in there and all the streaming, they need more locations closer in more densely populated areas to be able to push that data through. So we're seeing a lot more push towards the rural areas. We already know that Greensboro, Winston, they're jammed up with antenna and service everywhere. It's areas more in like the back end of Guilford and Rockingham, which the service isn't as great because they don't have as many coverage. But that's starting to change. There's a big push from the federal government. They want these areas to have serviceability. So we're seeing that. But I could surely put that out, your address. I had to have it in an email saying, Scott, do you mind? That way I'm not just doing it on my own. I'm getting a directive from the board that if you want me to send it to those 3 carriers and, see what they come back with. That, there's one right down the road, but that's just T-Mobile. And so you still got Verizon, AT&T.
Yeah, I've just observed over here towards our industrial corridor and the nursing home that I have Verizon, and it's a struggle in that area. So,
Yeah, I got Verizon too, and I feel your pain.
So
basically, if you looked at this, it's $33,300 or $980. I need my glasses. And so let's go back to the cost of this tank, the replacement cost. And we're going to use $3 million because that's probably a fair cost. Could be, up to $4 million, talking to the tank fabricators. And so if you looked at it at 3% replacement value that we talked about, putting it into a rainy day fund, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to let it live its life cycle. $90,000 is what that number would be. If we did 1.5%, that you're going to be putting back into the asset, so this tank's going to last for the next 75 years, that number, based on 1.5%, the $3 million replacement is $45,000. We're at $33,980, so we're probably more than that 1% or a little bit less. And so, but what this thing is not just coatings, paint, steel. It's as much water quality because we're in there every 2 years, cleaning it out, making sure nothing's going on. If you guys, it happens all the time where something happens and you're not sure what's going on in your water, you call Gary, and Gary's like, I have no idea. And you troubleshoot everything, your distribution. You guys drain the tank, we come out here and clean it. There's no additional charge. It's just trying to help you keep a clean glass, so you put good quality water in it. And so, it's more of a partnership. I mean, we've been here in Madison since 1963, filed our own son business for years. Now we're owned by a big firm. But we have the same team, been working together for 25 plus years, and we got a lot of good people in the bullpen. We were talking about people in bullpens and hiring people and stuff like that. We got a bunch of young guys too now on our team that are really good. And so, but once again, there's more and more ways to, to look at this. This is just kind of a full-blown asset management. It's your tank, you own it, but we're going to manage it, and anything. We're just basically taking this water tank off your risk management. We're putting it over here. You own it, but we're going to manage it. We're going to keep it at 95% replacement value. Is your finance director here?
Our bag
Okay,
is.
so basically, there's some way you could, it's called Gatsby 34. Now that this tank would be at 95% replacement value, you don't have to depreciate it and put it in a red, because we're making it appreciating value. You could put it at a Gatsby 34. So instead of having to depreciate $3 million, it's actually going to appreciate. It goes into the black. Now, she'll definitely have a professional opinion. In my experience with finance directors, out of 10, 5 love it, 5 hate it. It's just how they were trained and how they, look at things. But that's just something to note, because we write an engineering report every year that validates that. So if you got audited and they said, well, we're doing Gatsby 34, they go, well, let me see the documentation. Here's the engineering report. So it's one of those things to think about. Any questions? And last but not least, let's look at the mixer. This is just one of many, and this is about, just once again, before I came here, I talked to an engineer, your size tank, this mixing system right here, about $25,000. That comes with the design build. That means we had to go to the state and give them a design build to get a permit and get it approved. This will turn the tank over probably 6 times in the course of 24 hours. What that does, it helps to mitigate some of the stratification, some of the disinfection. It helps, because now your bottom of the tank, remember what we talked about in the summertime, because that dark blue, this part up here is going to be kind of dead. It's just fouled water because it just sits there and bakes. And so basically it's going to be turned from the bottom to the top. So that whole water source is going to be homogenized. It's all going to be the same from top to bottom. And once again, I'm going to send you all this that we're looking at so you guys can digest it and take a look at it. But your tank's at 300, so we would have the one there that goes from 0 to 1 million gallons. What kind of power do you have at your site, Robbie? I'm guessing single phase, 120. I'm not sure, but
I think that's it.
yeah. So this would be kind of. Is that what you got?
Single phase, 240.
240. Okay, great. It'd be perfect. And yeah, you have a control panel, has an LED. So, and it's just kind of a study. You can keep showing. Right here, it talks about stratification. So before they turn the mixer on, these lines represent the water layers at different temperatures. We turn the mixer on, and once it gets churning and doing its job, it all comes together. Now the water's homogenized. It's all the same. There's no stratification. The chlorine residual is going to be the same at the bottom as it would be the top. And you could validate that. I've done it before, where that little port that we talked about possibly replacing because, seen better days. You can pull the sample there. We can pull it up top. Should be about exactly the same. Whereas if I did that today or in the summertime, let's say it gets above 77 degrees, I pulled it at the bottom, probably have a pretty good residual. If I climbed that tank, pulled it from the top, probably not so much. So
You mentioned $25,000. Is that an estimate? Or,
that's a good ballpark number. I asked our engineer, he ran some numbers for me before I came here. He looked at the size of the tank and the elevation. And that's including the engineering, the design, permitting, installation, materials. That's everything. That's turnkey.
That's good. If we could get an official, I guess, quote.
Yeah,
on that,
100%. Anything else?
Our finance director just came in. You had a question. What was it?
Oh, yeah. So, hey, I'm Scotty. So we were just talking about the water tank. It's about $3 million today's marketplace. Could be up to 4. So when you are going through all your assets, do you depreciate that water tank?
It is depreciated.
Okay.
It is in the audit report.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
So reason I asked, because Gatsby 34, are you familiar with that methodology?
Yes.
Okay, and I was telling the board and everyone here that if I asked 10 finance directors, 5 love it, 5 hate it. The Gatsby 34 was really pushed down on the local government because of funding. One is that a lot of times we don't put money away in a rainy day fund or we don't put money back into an asset. So they wanted to say, hey guys, if you want to get funding from us, grants, a better interest rate, you're going to do one or two things. You're going to put money in a rainy day fund, or you're going to put it back into the asset and stretch out the life cycle and keep it above 95% replacement value. So with Gatsby 34, how I understand it is that every year we inspect a tank, we give you a report that demonstrates it's at 95% replacement value. You no longer have to depreciate it. It's really appreciating because it's not losing value. So it's just a different way to account for your asset.
Okay.
And that's, once again, it's more of a preference, but a lot of accountants have told me they'd like to do that because, especially, think about the city of Raleigh. They got 35 tanks. They got probably $250 million of assets in the air. That's a big hit going the other way. So, but that's just some food for thought.
Good.
Anything else? And you'll have all this in documentation so you can look at it a little closer.
I'll look forward to reading.
Yeah, 100%. And also make a little note about the epoxy coating that we put in there, so you got a record of that too.
In case it becomes important later.
100%. Yep.
Great. Any other questions for Scotty? Very good. Thank you, Scotty.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Appreciate
Got
that
it.
very much.
Very good.
Ladies? All right, we'll go over to dinner.
Plow through and get her done.
Okay, we do have a time here for public comments from the floor. Okay, there being none, we'll move along to town council comments. Mr. Foy?
Just thank you to Scotty. Have no comments.
Okay, Mr. Landreth, any comments?
I'd say the same thing, he's gone.
Mr. Jones?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. All righty. We do have a couple of announcements here. One is that immediately following this meeting, we will have the regular town council meeting at 7:00 p.m. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
You do, sir.
Second.
Am I?
Mr. Foy, Mr. Landry,
Aye.
Jones, and I'm Mike. Meeting adjourned for 5 minutes.
For 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman.